Welcome back to the Exposure Stories. Let's return to Hollywood and our top story this morning, where legendary actress Diane Keaton has died at the age of 79, sending shockwaves through the film industry and among fans worldwide. Just 2 days after the tragic announcement, Keanu Reeves made an unexpected appearance, uttering words that had remained unspoken for 2 decades. Gone were his typically polite or reserved responses. This time Keanu's statement left the entire media world silent. Was there something deeper between the two stars beyond their on-screen connection? Why did Diane choose to remain silent until the end of her life, and why did Keanu only speak when it was all over? "Wow," Keanu said softly. "Such a unique, extraordinary artist and person. I had the chance to work with her once and I really cherished that experience." His words were brief but filled with emotion. Diane's death came only weeks after Keanu had visited her twice at her Pacific Palisades home. Both meetings were private, unannounced, and completely free from any media attention. According to those closest to her, including her adopted daughter Dexter and her personal assistant, Keanu arrived alone without representatives or escorts and spent hours in quiet conversation with Diane. By mid-2025, Diane's health had worsened dramatically. Her mobility had become limited, and she had begun to withdraw from public life altogether. She canceled professional engagements, turned down interviews, and quietly stepped away from several projects she had once been considering. Her assistant revealed that Keanu's first visit came in mid-July, lasting nearly 3 hours in the living room with no one else present. The second visit occurred in early September, and afterward, Diane received no visitors aside from family and doctors. There were no photographs, recordings, or written notes from those encounters, but their authenticity was confirmed by everyone who had been in her household at the time. Dexter Keaton later confirmed that Keanu was one of the very few people my mother actively invited. Though their relationship was never publicly defined, it became clear that in her final days, Diane did not maintain emotional distance from Keanu. She even requested absolute privacy during both of his visits. Just 4 days before her passing, Diane mailed out several handwritten letters from her home address, one of them sent directly to Keanu's representative office in Los Angeles. Her relatives confirmed that the letters were brief, handwritten by Diane herself, and deeply personal. She remained conscious and communicative until the last night of her life, but was taken to a hospital early the next morning after having difficulty breathing. Diane Keaton died peacefully in the early morning hours of October 11, 2025 from complications of pneumonia. Her final words to her loved ones were simple but profound. "I've met the people I needed to meet." Neither Diane nor Keanu ever publicly denied their connection, but his presence at her side during her last days spoke volumes. Those who knew her understood that her choices were deliberate, quiet, but meaningful. Diane passed away privately, in line with the way she had chosen to live. Her hospitalization and death occurred within 10 hours, and her family waited until October 15 to officially announce her passing. By then, tributes began to pour in across Hollywood. Former co-stars and friends shared their memories, photos, and stories of a woman who had touched many lives yet guarded her own so carefully. In her final months, Diane had gradually withdrawn from public life. She stopped attending events, declined invitations to short film reunions, and stepped back from a charity construction project she had once passionately supported. "Pause to rest," she told colleagues, though only her family and doctors knew the true extent of her illness. In March 2025, Diane quietly listed her longtime Pacific Palisades bungalow for sale, a home she had often referred to as the last place I needed. Those close to her saw this decision as a symbolic step toward closure. Her last public appearance was at a small fundraiser for an animal rescue in Malibu, where she appeared thinner, with shorter hair and covered arms. After that day she retreated completely, maintaining contact only with her 2 children and a few relatives. She spent her final weeks writing letters, keeping a small daily journal, and requesting no further visitors. Years earlier, Diane had once said in an interview, "If I ever disappear from Hollywood, it may be because I am living more authentically than ever." Those words became her truth. She left no public farewell and requested no elaborate funeral. Her funeral plan, written personally in advance, asked for no media coverage, no public ceremony, and no tombstone. Instead, she encouraged donations to 2 charities she cherished, a Los Angeles food bank and a dog rescue shelter in the Southern California desert. A close friend later confirmed, "She always wanted everything to be low-key and not bother anyone." That remained true until the very end. After her death, Keanu Reeves withdrew from the public eye. One of Diane's last letters had been addressed to him, and only after receiving it did he emerge briefly to speak. His public appearances following her death were brief but significant. At the Los Angeles premiere of his new film just 2 days after Diane's passing, he paused when asked about her. "She was a generous artist, a special and unique person. She was very good to me," he said. The statement was short but sincere, and its timing drew attention. Keanu had never described any colleague with such warmth. That evening, appearing on a previously scheduled talk show, he spoke of the film they had made together, Something, Gotta Give, recalling a scene in Paris that Diane shared with Jack Nicholson. He called it a smart, gentle, and very real moment. Throughout the interview, Keanu spoke of Diane in the present tense as if she were still here. "Diane was the one who made order out of chaos," he said quietly. Afterward, he skipped the after-party and made no further comments. His representatives confirmed that his words were entirely his own decision, not part of a publicity campaign. It was the first time in 20 years that Keanu had spoken so openly about Diane. Previously, his answers about her had been brief, compliments about her professionalism, her intelligence, or her kindness. When once asked whether there had ever been something more between them, Keanu neither confirmed nor denied it. He only said, "She has always been an irreplaceable part of my journey." It was a rare glimpse of emotion from an actor known for his restraint. After this, Keanu vanished from the public scene for nearly 2 weeks, leaving his co-stars and producers to handle the promotional events. His silence felt different this time, peaceful, but complete. Those close to Diane described her as a woman who always kept her distance from fame but never from honesty. She didn't hide her feelings, she simply refused to put them on display. And Keanu, they said, was someone she trusted not for his fame but for his sincerity. He never called her a friend or colleague, but simply Diane. His tone was always personal, direct, and unmistakably affectionate. It was evident that their bond transcended professional boundaries, even if neither ever defined it. Their connection, quiet yet powerful, had begun decades earlier on the set of Something's Gotta Give. In the early 2000s, Diane and Keanu met as co-stars on Nancy Meyers' romantic comedy. She played Erica Bari, an accomplished playwright. He portrayed Julian Mercer, a young doctor. Their chemistry on screen was palpable, but those who worked behind the scenes recalled something deeper. Diane, known for preferring solitude during filming, spent unusually long hours working with Keanu. They rehearsed lines, explored emotional beats, and shared creative input. Crew members noticed that both would arrive early and stay late, lingering long after others had left the set. Director Nancy Meyers remembered that Diane even requested more screen time with Keanu after seeing the first cut, saying, "Being with him, I felt like I didn't have to try too hard." Their collaboration produced some of the film's most memorable moments, many of which were improvised and left untouched in the final edit. After production, they didn't work together again, but they crossed paths occasionally, most memorably at the 2020 Academy Awards, where they presented the original screenplay award together. Observers noticed their ease and comfort, their quiet laughter backstage, and how they spoke to each other like old friends. In later interviews, when Diane was asked to name her favorite co-stars, she mentioned only 2. Keanu was one of them. "He makes things easy," she said simply. For his part, Keanu once described Diane as someone with a way of seeing things unlike anyone I've ever worked with. On set, their scenes required few retakes, their natural rhythm made direction almost unnecessary. Off-set, they were never seen together at private events, yet Diane often referred to him as someone who doesn't quite belong here but makes me feel safe. In a 2018 podcast, she alluded to certain people who had quietly stayed in her life, and though she never named him, many suspected Keanu was one of them. Their bond was not built on appearances but on presence, on the rare moments they chose to share quietly. It was not the number of meetings that defined them but the understanding between them. Diane once said that privacy wasn't secrecy, it was freedom. That principle guided her life and death. In her final years, she lived according to her own rhythm, writing books, restoring homes, supporting charities, and devoting herself to animal rescue. She never married and adopted 2 children later in life, explaining, "I choose to live alone not because I cannot love, but because I do not need anyone to manage my life." Those who knew her said Diane controlled every detail of her career and image with care. After leaving Hollywood's spotlight, she immersed herself in architecture and interior design, often renovating houses she later donated or sold to community causes. She preferred handwritten letters over emails, spent mornings in her garden, and disconnected completely from social media. Her friends said she was fully prepared for her final chapter, having organized her estate, charity donations, and final instructions long before her passing. Among the names in her handwritten notes was Keanu Reeves, listed as someone who should be privately informed of her death. For Diane, privacy was not an act of hiding but an expression of authenticity. She didn't need validation or explanation. She lived and departed on her own terms, graceful, quiet, and deliberate. As for Keanu, his brief words after her death were enough. They carried the weight of years of unspoken affection and respect. Some connections, after all, do not need definitions or public confirmation. They exist quietly, enduringly, like a shared understanding between two souls who met at the right time and never forgot. If you too feel something special through this story, perhaps it's because you understand that the deepest connections are not always loud or visible. Some are soft, unspoken, and eternal, quiet, but never fading.